We are going to talk about online scams and frauds. Most of these are common year-round, so it can benefit you anytime, but they're going to be more common this time of year. Because although we might celebrate different holidays or have different traditions, we're all sure to be seeing some of these come through our emails, our social media feeds, even our texts. They come right to our phones. So today I'm going to talk about them. I'll provide some key takeaways for you, some resources that we provide, and then some tips so you can stay safe online and recognize these things before they happen. Okay. First thing though, let's talk about how big of an issue cybercrime is. It's real big. It goes underreported because a lot of times it happens and people kind of either shrug and say there's nothing they can do, or they didn't know they've been a victim. Like when the Equifax hack happened, people didn't find out for months, even longer afterwards. So they're not going to report it if they don't know what happened. But the truth is 1 out of 4 people in the US are impacted by cybercrime. So that's a whole chunk of people. That's a very large number, and the cost is even larger. It comes out to about $420 billion a year out of people and businesses' pockets. So this is some pretty serious stuff we're talking about. But instead of going down rabbit hole, the data, I want to talk to you about what is cybercrime. I'm going to talk about the types that you're going to see over the holidays, how to recognize scams, and how to stay safe online. So we're going to start with what is cybercrime. In short, we can describe that as if a device is the object of the crime. So if somebody puts ransomware on your computer, or if your iPhone is hacked, or if the device or the internet is used to commit the crime. So malicious emails would count as that, or credit card skimmers. Technology is being used in the perpetration of these crimes. But it can be a lot of devices. When I say devices, I mean everything we use every day. And the most important probably might be your phone or your tablet, because think about what's on that right now. Most of you probably have dozens, if not hundreds of passwords on there. Your bank account information might be on there, right? Personal identifying information, including where you are at all times, and even your health information, if you use a Fitbit or a health tracker, or your social media posts. I mean, some people want to lock that down and don't want strangers to see it, but if they get into your phone, they can see a lot of stuff. And to make things worse now, or better, depending on how comfortable you are with technology, these things can happen through what's called IoT, the Internet of Things. And these are devices that are connected to the internet, that are everyday devices. So the data breaches can become even more substantial. I don't know if about a year or 2 ago that you saw on the news, a girl's bedroom was hacked by her parents' security camera. And the person got in, was able to talk to the little girl in the bedroom and access the camera. That's the type of thing I'm talking about, because those parents, they thought they were doing fine, and they did, but they forgot to enable stronger passwords on there. So anything even as simple as a light bulb or a thermometer might be a way in for a bad guy. There was a casino in Great Britain, I believe, that got robbed because the hackers got in through the thermostat in the aquarium in the hotel lobby. It didn't have a password. And through that, they were able to feed themselves right up into the high roller database. So anything that even seems small, we have to remember to secure it like we're locking our own doors at our house, because it could lead to big trouble. Not to say that these things are wrong to have them. If you feel comfortable using a smartwatch or a Ring doorbell, that's great. Just remember to secure it, because we don't want bad actors using it against you. So now let's look at some common types of cybercrime. I think you're going to probably be familiar with some of these, but I'm going to tell you how to recognize them. And then I'm going to kind of talk to them about how they interact with the holidays. The Grinch is here, but we can talk about any holiday, whether it's Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or New Year's or Thanksgiving, whatever, because these is a time of year when people are looking to spend more. So I'm going to just talk about 4 different ones right now. They're the most common that I think you should know about. And we'll start with online shopping, because a lot of people are doing shopping right now, and especially with the pandemic, we're doing more and more of it online. So it's important to be able to recognize these. One thing I emphasize to everybody anytime I do a talk is if anybody wants you to pay by a gift card, don't do it. It's not wise. Or if they want you to pay by cryptocurrency or something that you can't get back, it's probably a scam. A check or a credit card is the best way because you can defend yourself against it and stop a check or get money back from your credit card company. When an online transaction is made, you want to make sure it's secure. So you want to use secure sites, and you want to use sites that maybe that you're familiar with, the bigger retailers. That's not to say don't shop small. It's great to support your locals, but make sure that they're using safety things. Look at their website in the address bar, and if you see that green padlock or the HTTPS, that S means secure, and it means it's encrypted for your credit card. So you can feel a little bit better about giving them your credit card information or your address or things like that. If an email address, if you get an email from a company with a deal, if the deal seems too good to be true, it might be, check the address, because sometimes they'll come from just a little bit off. So instead of ebay.com, it might come from ebuy.com. And it seems like it's something that is legitimate, but it's not. Another thing is you want to make sure that they're not using misspelled or misused words. That's one way they catch you. Because if you're not paying attention, those are the people they want. They're not paying attention, they're a little busy, they don't read it so closely, and then they're interacting with you and they're going to try to do something. So some things to look out for, like I said, the email address looks fishy. One other thing I want to warn against is going to a site by an individual vendor. If you're on something like Facebook or eBay or Etsy or something where people are selling, say, memorabilia or something homemade, that's great, but you want to make sure you're doing it safely. So if they ask you, oh, we take payment by PayPal, but can you send it to my private address instead of the business account? Because I don't want to pay the credit card fees. That's great. We all want to help out people. But if you do that and it's a scam, they're going to say you broke the terms of service at PayPal and you're not going to get your money back. While if you go through the right, this happened to me actually on Etsy. I bought something and the person disappeared. But I made a claim to PayPal and I got my money back within an hour because I did it the right way, and they know that these things happen. And also with holiday shopping, I just want to say look out for sites that are counterfeit. There are things not just for holiday shopping, but if you're looking for prescription drugs, say, from Canada, that's a very common thing people do. But make sure the site is legitimate, because if it comes from, say, Russia, or if it comes from somebody who's scamming, you may get, if you get anything at all, you may get something that has no active ingredient or the wrong active ingredient, and then you're putting your life at risk. So you want to make sure you do your due diligence and make sure these companies are legitimate. So check out sites like the Better Business Bureau and check out consumer sites and Yelp and everything else to make sure that who you're buying from is who they say they are. Another big thing during the holidays is charity scams. We all want to give a little bit more this time of year, I hope, and doing so brings out the scammers, right? They want to take advantage of that money that you're willing to give away, unfortunately. So what you want to do is look out for things that are non-specific. If they say, don't you want to help the veterans this time of year? Or do you want to give money to help foster puppies? I love puppies and I want to help puppies and I want to help our veterans. But what I don't want is something that's nondescript. I have to say, let's help the veterans through this charity. Or, I am helping the puppies through this pet rescue organization. And then go to Charity Navigator or ask friends who have donated there. Or go to GuideStar, that's another good website. And make sure that these charities are on the up and up. Because what last thing you want to do is give money with a good heart and not have that money go to where it needs to go. Holiday volunteering is also a good option if you don't want to risk your money online. Just go to your United Way, go to your food bank and say, hey, how can I volunteer? How can I help people? And then that saves everybody a lot of online hassle. Some of the red flags for these charities, you might receive a phone call or an email thanking you for a donation that you don't remember making. They do that to be tricky. They want to play on maybe your false sense of memory, or you're saying, well, I guess I probably gave money in the past. I'm going to give money again. And you might not have a record of that, but they made that connection with you, thinking you're already been in a relationship. So you want to look out for something like that. You want to watch out if they pressure you into making a donation immediately. If you're talking to somebody on the phone and they're pushing and pushing, say, well, why don't you donate now? Why don't we take your credit card information right now? It's okay to stop them and say, I'd love to donate to your cause. Let me check it out first and I'll get back to you. There's nothing wrong with saying that or slowing down. If it's a legitimate charity, they're going to understand, and you can check it out and go to the website yourself, the legitimate website, or you can do the homework and go to the right phone number that is given by Charity Navigator or 211 or wherever it is you find your information. And finally, if they want you, again, to use cash, gift cards, or wire transfers, please stay away from that. It's hard or almost impossible to get your money back if that happens. So you don't want to get in that situation. Gift cards are for gifting or as receiving a gift. It's not for paying anything. That's one of the most important things. The nightly news the other night just covered again how often gift cards are being used to ask for payment. And let's just be careful of that because it's happening more and more. Romance scams, I could do a whole presentation on romance scams because there's just so much to talk about, and it happens too often nowadays. But pretty much they're one of the most searched things on our website, and it's a type of imposter scam where somebody pretends to be somebody romantically interested in order to get either money or information, sometimes a visa, things like that. Any kind of information or tangible that will benefit them and hurt you, unfortunately. So what you want to do is watch out because they come in a lot through social media. If you're using, I don't want to peg one over the other, but if you use Facebook or Instagram or whatever to do your social media, when we do that, we're already in a position where we want to do outreach, and we want to accept new friends, and we want to put our guard down a little bit because it's a social site and that's what we're supposed to do, right? Same thing with dating sites. We're on there because we want to meet people. But the bad guys know that, and they're going to try to come in through that door. They're going to look at stuff on your back feed and see things like, oh, that person likes cats, or oh, that person grew up in this hometown. And they're going to use that as a way to start conversation. So what you want to do is be careful and check them out and make sure that they have a history on that website of people who you know, and ask if they are connected to people you know, ask them about it. Say, do you know this person, or are they just a casual acquaintance? Because they'll do that. They'll make friends around you to make it seem more secure. And then you'll get unsolicited texts from people that for the same reason. And it's not just the social media sites, anything that has a social component. Some of the red flags on these are they will declare their love after only a few back and forths. We all want to be loved and we all want that connection. But if they're saying I love you that quickly, that's a red flag. They might ask you to get off that site, whether it's Facebook or Match.com, and just do private texts together. They do that because they're taking you away from the safeguards that those websites have. Whereas, on Facebook, somebody might see your interactions and say, hey, this is fishy. If you're just talking privately, they don't have to worry about that. They again ask for money, sometimes gift cards, but a lot of times they'll say, I'd love to come see you, but my daughter needs an operation, or I don't have money for the plane tickets. Can you send me some? And it starts off small and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And until sometimes people are giving away way too much. And, you know, it sounds like it's something that's obvious and people shouldn't fall for, but the heart wants what the heart wants. And when you make a connection with somebody, you want to believe that that's true. And that's, you know, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're being careful about it. And if they repeatedly cancel or postpone plans to meet, so if they get that money for the plane ticket and then say, oh, work happened, or I'm in the Army and they just transferred me to another base, so I can't go now, it's a bad timing. These are red flags because they'll carry that out months and years if they can, as long as they keep getting something from you. So we want to be careful about that. And finally, imposter scams. Romance scams are a type of imposter scam, but there are others out there. Friends and family scams definitely target seniors. There's what's called the Grandparent Scam. That's when you receive a phone call, often in the middle of the night because they want to catch you off guard, right? And they'll say, oh, there's something wrong with your granddaughter or grandson. They're in the hospital or they've been arrested. And they need gift cards or money to get right, to get bail or to get treatment. And we need this right away, or else something bad is going to happen. And because we love our friends and family, we want to act quickly, and we might not be thinking and give up that money. We have to be careful about that, though, and make sure that who's calling is who they say they are. Same thing with government agencies and police. I'm sure everybody here has gotten a call from the PBA asking for a donation, the Police Benevolence. They don't do that. They don't solicit money over the phone. Most of us have probably gotten phone calls from the IRS or from Social Security or Medicare. Again, they do not call. No government agencies call or email asking for money ever. They'll send you an old-fashioned paper notice about that. And we want to be careful because they can make the phone number look like it's coming from an IRS office. So it's important to say, well, you know what, I'll call you back. And then call the number on the back of your Social Security statement or the number on your Medicare card and make sure that everything's okay. The same thing with phony sellers. There's phony bank accounts, bankers. There's fake lottery prizes. That's a scam that's been going around since before computers. They'll say, hey, I won the lottery, but I'm not a citizen. And if you can cash this for me, if you give me money up front, you can have part of my winnings. I'm not quite sure how it goes, but it makes it very, very appealing. We want to make sure that anything that sounds too good to be true again is probably a scam, unfortunately. Some of the red flags we'll see is, again, it's in common, gift cards or wire transfer, they'll ask you. They insist that you keep your request for money a secret. That way they don't have time to have somebody question you about why you're giving money away. And again, they call you late at night to catch you off guard, or they make it sound like something bad's going to happen. If you don't pay your IRS bill, we're going to come and take you to jail, or we're going to cancel your Social Security benefits. None of that stuff's ever going to happen. If the police want to arrest you, they're going to come and just arrest you. They're not going to call you first. Don't worry about that. But of course, nobody here did anything wrong, so that's okay. And one last thing, all these things are holiday scams, but they're also related to COVID. I want to make that clear because people, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, but they're still doing it. They're Googling COVID cures or cheap places to find masks and things like that. You want to be careful that what you're finding and where you're shopping are from trusted sellers. You never, ever have to pay for a COVID vaccine boost or a COVID test. There are ways through your local health department that you can get those for free. So always check your local health department for things like that. So I thought that was worth noting since we're still stuck with this and you know, we have to be safe about it, right? So finally, let's talk about safety, right? This is pretty important stuff. I'm going to first start with what we do as CSN, and then I'm going to talk about things that you can do yourselves to stay a little safer, right? We have a website called fightcybercrime.org. And I think it's something that if you, after this, of course, because I'm so riveting, you don't want to look away, but go to fightcybercrime.org and bookmark it, because if something does happen where you need help, if you were scammed or if you got malware on your computer, we're the first database, national database in the country to have resources to tell you where to go. Because you can call the FTC or the Better Business Bureau or Bank of America or Facebook, and there are so many places to report something, and if you don't know the right one, you're going to get frustrated and not do it, or you're not going to find the right recovery. So we made that easy, and we made it even easier if you're a senior, because there are special resources available for seniors. So you can click on one of the 3 topics we have here for military and families, children and teens, and older adults and caregivers, because they're disproportionately targeted, and we wanted to make sure that you can find resources really quickly. And it's very easy to use. You just click on the type of crime that you've experienced, and it takes you to a list of what you need to do, whether it's reporting to your credit bureau. It gives you a link right to there, or a phone number if you're more comfortable with a phone. And it tells you what you need to have with you and what you need to do, and step by step by step. Because especially if you're in a crisis and money's been taken away from you, say, you might be too upset to want to Google that and learn it all yourself. We're just going to lay it out right for you. And we also have some other programs. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I did reference our Romance Scam Survivor program. It is a peer support program for people who have been involved in one of these and are on their way to recovery. And I say recovery because when you come out of a romance scam, many times it's not just financial, like the one person I mentioned who lost their 401k, but they feel it's almost like a domestic abuse situation. They feel emotionally broken. They might have hard and fractured relationships with their family because the family told them, you know, this is a scam, and they didn't want to hear it, and it caused problems. Some people come out of it with substance abuse issues from depression. Some even think about suicide because they're that emotionally taxed because of this happened. So it's a very serious type of crime. And we have a peer support group of 8 to 10 people, 10-week course where they learn a little bit more about cyber safety tips like I'm going to explain, but they have a licensed therapist on hand to talk about their experience and share their stories and kind of heal together. And it's very nice. And there's a closed Facebook group that they can all join afterwards, so they can continue their relationships and their talk. So I'm pretty proud of that, and I thought it was worth a mention. I am going to talk about Secure Together, though. We've partnered with Consumer Reports on this, and it's meant for people like you and me. If you're feeling a little uncomfortable with your online security, even after we talk today, this is made to have people like me who understand it a little bit more sit with you and actually go through the steps to make yourself more secure. Because I can talk about it today and you can agree and say, I need to do this, but when it comes to actually doing it, it might be intimidating. So we want to pair people who know a little bit about it with people who don't know as much about it so that they can feel more comfortable and get things done. How it works is somebody will volunteer as a facilitator, and sometimes that might be maybe a cyber seniors instructor, or it might be like our Girl Scouts partners, or it might be a work volunteer group that wants to have give a hand to people in their friend and family network. So get with them, like I said, they sit with them, they implement the curriculum, and they encourage others to do the same. And we make it a little fun. You can make a team. And so here you see our little leaderboard, and there's teams together. So if, say, cyber seniors instructors all gather together and say, we want to be a cyber senior team, they can do that and see how many people they can keep secure. We made it a little game. But here's what the meat of it is. We teach people how to enable two-factor or multi-factor authentication, which I'm going to talk about because it's very important. How to set up auto updates on your phones and tablets and your computers. How to recognize signs of phishing and smishing. And what that is those emails that look a little weird that I was talking about, or those texts you get that you didn't ask for. And how to personalize privacy settings into a way you feel comfortable. If you're like me, you lock down all the privacy settings, or some people like to have a little bit more because they use more apps than I do. So you talk to the person, the facilitator, about what works for you, and it's going to be something that you feel good about. One more thing that we have, I like to offer, is Scamspotter.org. This is a pretty cool site. It's designed with seniors in mind because the font's a little bit bigger. We make the points that we have very easy. We just focus on 3 things: slowing it down. Like I said, you can tell somebody, hey, I need to check things out. So that's spot checking. And then stop, don't send. You can always have the option to say, no, I don't want to do this, and hang up on the person if it seems fishy. And at the end of reviewing what the rules are, we have a little test that we give little scenarios about, like, hey, if you got this text, is it a scam or is it safe? And there's about 6 to 10 questions that you can go through, and I think it's pretty cool. And we just partnered with Google, and they made us these great videos to kind of underline things like gift card scams and business email compromise scams, and they're very funny and they're really well done. And if you go on scamspotter.org, you can see them. They're like 15 seconds, and they're very cool. But let's talk about keeping yourself safe, and these are things that you can do. Some of them are easier than others. There are 6 steps that we say to cyber safety. I'm going to talk about 3. What I'm not going to talk about are protecting mobile devices. I think I mentioned before, it's very important to keep your phones and your tablets close to you and safe. Use a password if you can, because of the amount of information on there. It's very important to keep safe. Keep your software updated. If you're like me, I used to have my phone and I get the red light that said updates available, and I would click remind me later. And that's not good, because those updates are usually for security. It means somebody found a way around the security and can get into your software. So update those as soon as possible. And finally, avoiding phishing attempts. That's something that is a whole nother webinar, because there are so many tricky things to do. But like I said, if the email looks fishy, if it doesn't come from a source that you know, it's probably a phishing attempt. What I do want to talk about are passwords, which we all know. Strong authentication, that's the 2-factor authentication that I'm going to talk about. And trusted security tools, some things that you can put on your computers or phones that might help you. Oops. So passwords. If you have one of these passwords, as soon as we're done here today, please go back and change it, because these are somehow still popular passwords, and they can be cracked immediately, not under a second. In fact, any dictionary word, anything that you can find in a dictionary, or a sports team or things like that, can be cracked immediately, even if you use a 3 for an E, or an exclamation point for a 1. Algorithms already know how to crack that, and you're in trouble. So what I'm going to show you sounds complicated, but it's really easy. We recommend passphrases. So that's using those simple words strung together in a phrase. 8 to 26 characters sounds like a lot, but if you use maybe a song lyric, I want to hold your hand, or if you use a joke your mom used to tell you, or a phrase that you use a lot that's kind of like an inside thing between you and your friends or your family, it makes it very easy to remember. Mary had a little lamb. That takes up a lot of characters, and they're simple words, but because it's so long and strung together, it's not going to be cracked. I picked one for show you today that nobody's ever going to guess because nobody's ever said this sentence. We love sitting through webinars. After 2 years of doing this, nobody's saying this word anymore. But you can see it's easy to remember, right? It's got a capital letter in case you need capitals in your password. But it's very, very hard to break. And some websites still do ask for a capital letter or a character. Just put one in somewhere that you'll remember, and it's still just as easy. So I would recommend a passphrase. Just think of something that that means something to you, even if it's all your grandkids' names strung together, instead of just using one grandkid and 1, 2, 3 after. It really does help. The next thing we're talking about is authentication. So what that means is two-factor or multi-factor. It means you need more than one thing to get into an account. So the one step or the one factor is usually your password, right? But if somebody does find out your password because you used it on another site, or they hacked into your password, or you're using an insecure password, that's not very safe. But if you set up two-factor, the other factor may be a text that comes to your phone. So when you log in with your password, you get a text automatically with a code. Or on Gmail, when I log into my Gmail, I open my Gmail on my phone and click, yes, it's me. And that's all you have to do. And it logs me in automatically. So it's not a very complicated thing. But in order to crack that, a hacker would have to, A, have your password, right? But also have your phone or your tablet. So that's a little less likely, which makes you a lot more safe. So that's a great thing to have. Other factors might be a thumbprint. They might be an email to another address that you have, depending on what you're comfortable with. But let me show you how to do this. I'll show you a site that will tell you how to do 2FA, although when you do the secure together, you walk through that with your facilitator, and this is one of the options too. This is called 2FA.directory. What it does is it shows you all the categories of types of websites that are out there, right? And say you wanted to protect your health accounts, right? You would go and you'd click on that and you get a list of all health-related accounts that are out there. This is only a short list because I cut off the screenshot, but you can see there are things like Fitbit that does have two-factor auth, and you would click on the blue dock thing and it would take you right to what you need to do to enable two-factor on that account. And it tells you who doesn't have it and how to advocate to get it. So CVS Caremark, for instance, doesn't use two-factor. You might want to contact them and let them know that it's important to you, because that's not just your prescription information. That's also your buying habits at CVS. It's also your credit card information. You guys are in for a treat. My landscaper just showed up. I would recommend going here and clicking on things like banking or social media and finding out how to secure your accounts that way. And if you feel uncomfortable with it, find somebody who knows and go through it together, because it's always better to do it together. But never share your password with anyone, even if it's trusted, because that's your most important thing to get into these accounts. And then I talked about security tools. VPN is called a virtual private network, and these protect you when you use public Wi-Fi. If you travel and you like going to cruises or hotels or spend time in an airport to get to those places, or you go use the public Wi-Fi downtown, everything that you have is exposed, and somebody can sit there with the right equipment and see your passwords, see your bank account information, see what text you're sending. It's all very exposed. So what you want to do is use a VPN, and it puts up a wall and it hides your signal so that people can't see what you're doing online. Now, VPNs do cost money. They're usually about $4 or $5 a month for a decent one. But if you do travel a lot, or if you use coffee shop Wi-Fi and things like that, I would definitely recommend it because it keeps you that much safer, and you don't want people getting in there and seeing what you're doing. I do have a little bit more, because I talked about phones. I just want to talk about securing your phone. I think this is pretty important stuff. I'm going to use screenshots from my iPhone, but Android phones have the same type of information. It just might look a little bit different on your phones. First thing you want to do is check your privacy settings. Like I said, everybody has something they feel a little more comfortable with, and find out what you really need, right? Some things like, if you go click in the not calendar, we're going to click into microphones, right? So what apps really need your microphone, right? Here you can see, I don't think Amazon or Gmail need my microphone, so I turned it off. I turned off YouTube because they don't need my microphone. But Shazam does, and Zoom does, so I can talk to you people here today, so I keep that on. And like I said, it's all what you feel comfortable with, because if it's on, I don't know how many of you have had a conversation about a vacation you might want to take, or stuff you're thinking about buying at the store, and that comes up in your social media feed. That's partially because your microphone's on, and they're listening to what you're doing. It's also because they're tracking you across locations, but the microphone is a big part of that. So you might want to think about having that on, or your camera on, apps that don't need them. Another thing is location services. Location services tells people and apps where you are at any given time. So think about what needs it. On my iPhone, I can choose always on, only when using, or never. So what you can see is my bank never needs to know where I am, right? But Google Maps does when I'm using it. Uber or Lyft needs it when I'm using it, but they don't need to track me when it's off. So I put only when using. Just about nothing needs to know all the time when you're using it. Maybe a compass, maybe some other things. And some people like to have it on for some shopping, because they like shops to know that they're coming in and giving deals. But I feel less comfortable with that, so I shut it off. Most apps only use it to track your location and sell it to advertisers. So it's important to remember. Another thing that goes along with location services is Bluetooth. Now when you download, people are turning off location services all the time. So now when you download an app, it says, allow app to use Bluetooth. I click no. If you download, say, the Dunkin' Donuts app, I'm not calling them out, it's just an example, but they don't need to know anything about your Bluetooth, because they can use the Bluetooth not only to track your location, but to hack into the rest of the phone. If somebody was hacked into Dunkin' Donuts, then they can get into your phone through that. And they don't need it. The only thing that you might need Bluetooth for are your speakers at home, maybe your Alexa, maybe things that you want to pair to that Bluetooth specifically. Everything else, you can turn it off. And again, with location tracking, I don't know if Android phones have this feature, but Apple iPhones allow you to opt out of tracking altogether, which I think is a great thing. So it doesn't share your data with advertisers, with shops, with anything. So I love stuff like that. And when you do all this stuff, you're becoming a little bit more secure. They're very easy steps to take. Like I said, if you don't feel comfortable with it, find somebody in your circle who you trust and talk about it, and find out. I'm going to add some more resources here for you that are going to go out. It's our fightcybercrime.org, our Scamspotter, but also things like annual credit report. If you think you've been hacked and your ID's been taken, you're entitled to an annual credit report at least once a year. I think more now since COVID. And one thing you can do is lock or freeze your credit. If you don't think you're going to make a big purchase that requires credit, you can just turn it off, and they'll notify you if somebody's trying to make a purchase on credit. This is the IC3, the Internet Crime Complaint Center, with the FBI, the FTC, and of course AAP Fraud Watch Network. They have a great map where you can put in your location, and you can see all kinds of scams that are trending in your neighborhood, which is, I think, a pretty cool thing. So that's all I have today.